starboard. Bring her head to the wind, quickly.
March 17th, 1941. 0037 hours, the North Atlantic. Amidst freezing swells and impenetrable darkness, the fate of Great Britain is being decided. The statistics of the time were merciless. German U-boats were sinking Allied ships faster than they could be built. The Admiralty was in a panic. Naval doctrines were hopelessly outdated, and the official success rate of attacks was a pathetic 3%. Britain was one step away from surrender and starvation. But tonight, everything changes. While the High Command clings to old rules, one rebel officer is rewriting the laws of naval combat in his cabin. His ideas are forbidden, his career hangs by a thread, but it is his mathematical calculations that will send Hitler's greatest aces to the bottom tonight. This is the story of Frederick John Walker, the man who went against the system to save 10,000 lives. March 17th, 1941. 0037 hours, the North Atlantic, 40 miles northeast of Ireland. Commander Donald McIntyre stands rigid on the bridge of HMS Walker, his knuckles white against the frozen steel of the railing. Below him, 41 merchant vessels push eastward through 30-foot swells. Their hulls are weighted with Britain's lifeline: food, fuel, ammunition, and steel. Behind them, invisible in the darkness, at least 5 German U-boats circle like wolves. What he doesn't know, and what the Admiralty doesn't know, is that within the next 6 hours, this very night, 2 of Germany's 3 greatest submarine aces will be destroyed, using methods the Royal Navy has explicitly forbidden. One of them will perish in a ramming. The other will surface with catastrophic flooding, oil slicks spreading across the black water, her crew scrambling topside with hands raised in surrender. But this is getting ahead of our story. The statistics paint a portrait of Britain dying by degrees. In 1940 alone, German U-boats sent 471 Allied vessels, 2.5 million tons, to the ocean floor. Each month, submarines destroy merchant ships faster than British shipyards can build replacements. The mathematics are brutal and simple. At this rate, Britain will starve by Christmas 1941. The Royal Navy's response was the depth charge. Barrels packed with 300 pounds of TNT rolled off the stern of destroyers preset to explode at specific depths. The official kill rate was 3%. Only 3 out of every 100 attacks resulted in a confirmed sinking. That statistic would soon become the hinge upon which history turned. In the British naval hierarchy, the consensus was unanimous. Senior officers at the Admiralty's Anti-Submarine Warfare Division reviewed the statistics and concluded the depth charge was working as designed. Technological limitations made further improvements unlikely without entirely new weapon systems. The doctrine was established. The patterns were fixed. The settings were standardized. No further modifications would be entertained. Yet in a cabin aboard HMS Stork, a young officer with no advanced degree, no research laboratory, and no official authority filled notebook after notebook with calculations that proved everyone wrong. Lieutenant Commander Frederick John Walker had been watching ships burn. He had pulled bodies from oil slicks. He asked a question that the Navy refused to answer. What if we're using depth charges completely wrong? His answer would save 10,000 lives. It would nearly destroy his career. It would force the Admiralty to ban his innovation, and it would take a maverick admiral willing to break every rule to prove that sometimes the lowest-ranking officer in the room sees truths the highest command cannot. On September 3, 1939, the day Britain declared war, German submarine U-30 torpedoed the passenger liner SS Athenia, killing 117 civilians. The opening shot of what Winston Churchill would later call the only thing that ever really frightened me during the war. The depth charge seemed like the answer. Developed in World War I and perfected through the 1920s, it was standardized across the fleet. The theory was elegant. sonar operators aboard destroyers equipped with ASDIC technology would detect the submarine. The warship would accelerate to high speed, steam directly toward the contact, pass overhead at maximum velocity, then roll depth charges off the stern, each preset to the submarine's estimated depth. But theory collided catastrophically with Atlantic reality. Problem 1. The moment a destroyer began its high-speed attack run, ASDIC sonar lost contact. The beam couldn't maintain a lock during the charging approach. Captains were dropping depth charges blind, hoping the submarine hadn't turned, dived, or changed speed in the 30 seconds between last contact and weapon release. Those 30 seconds mattered. Problem 2. Standard doctrine called for depth charge settings of 150 and 300 feet. These depths were calculated for World War I submarines, but Type 7 U-boats could dive to 750 feet. German commanders quickly learned the simplest evasion tactic. The moment they detected a destroyer's propeller cavitation, they dived deep to wait out the attack where the charges couldn't follow. Problem 3. The diamond pattern. Navy doctrine demanded depth charges be dropped in preset geometric arrangements, assuming submarines traveled in straight lines. They didn't. U-boat captains executed radical maneuvers the instant they went deep, rendering the carefully calculated patterns useless. Between September 1939 and early 1941, the Navy prosecuted 174 confirmed U-boat contacts, but achieved only 5 kills. That is a 2.9% success rate. German submarine production, meanwhile, was accelerating. By early 1941, U-boats were being built faster than the Allies could sink them, at a ratio of 4-to-1. Walker was, in 1941, exactly what military bureaucracy fears most: a lower-ranking officer with an inconvenient mind. His career had stalled, his promotion was blocked, and his ideas were dismissed. He had no degree from Oxford, but he had notebooks filled with data. He studied his failures. After each unsuccessful attack, he interviewed sonar operators and calculated the probable position of the submarine. A pattern emerged slowly but undeniably. In December 1940, he calculated that a Type 7 U-boat, during an emergency dive, passes through the very zone the Navy assumes is clear during those 30 seconds of the destroyer's blind approach. In January 1941, Walker proposed splitting escort groups into teams. One ship would maintain contact from a distance at slow speed, providing real-time radio updates, while a second ship made the attack run. The response came back in 48 hours, stamped in red. Rejected, violates doctrine, risk of collision. However, Walker didn't know his proposal had been noticed by Gilbert Roberts, head of the Tactical Wargaming Unit in Liverpool. Roberts ran 47 simulations. The standard method yielded a 4% kill rate. Walker's method yielded 11%. Admiral Sir Percy Noble, seeing these results, issued a memorandum giving captains the authority to implement tactical variations without prior Admiralty approval. On March 8, 1941, Walker conducted the first test of his modified depth charge settings. He proposed creating a vertical barrier along the submarine's dive path. Although the U-boat escaped that time, the sonar team recorded sounds of hull buckling and flooding, sounds never heard using standard doctrine. Within 48 hours, an order arrived. Cease non-standard settings immediately. The Navy hadn't just rejected the innovation, they had banned it. At an emergency meeting in Liverpool, Walker was accused of violating the Naval Discipline Act. He responded bluntly, "I've watched ships burn because our doctrine is wrong. I am emotionally invested in finding something that works." Admiral Noble granted him 6 months for field testing. If it doesn't work, you will face the consequences. Then came March 17, 1941. Commander McIntyre applied Walker's tactics against U-99, commanded by the ace Otto Kretschmer. The coordination of 2 ships and Walker's new depth settings forced the submarine to surface with fatal damage. 45 minutes later, the same tactics destroyed U-100, commanded by Joachim Schepke. Two of Germany's top aces were eliminated in a single night, using the very methods the Admiralty had ordered Walker to abandon. The ban on Walker's modifications quietly disappeared. From April to December 1941, the kill rate more than doubled, rising from 3.3% to 7.6%. In June 1943, Walker, now a captain, perfected an even more revolutionary method, the creeping attack. One ship tracked the target while the second ship moved in with silenced engines at bare steerage speed, guided by radio. The U-boat never heard the attack until the charges exploded. The Germans began to realize the scale of the problem. Gross Admiral Donitz's war diaries noted that standard evasion protocols were no longer effective. By early 1944, Walker's Way had become standard procedure across the entire fleet. In total, ships under Walker's direct command sank 20 U-boats. Across the fleet, an estimated 147 submarines were sunk using his tactics between 1941 and 1945, saving the lives of approximately 15,000 merchant seamen. But the price was high. On July 9, 1944, Captain Frederick John Walker died at the age of 48 from a stroke brought on by utter exhaustion. He had spent 18 months at sea without rest, driving himself as if he were personally fighting every U-boat in the Atlantic. Thousands lined the streets of Liverpool for his funeral, and Churchill called him one of the outstanding commanders of the war. Despite the triumph of his ideas, Walker never became an admiral or received a knighthood during his lifetime. Historians note that the Admiralty was happy to use his tactics, but could never quite forgive his insubordination and the fact that he was right when the entire leadership was wrong. His gravestone in Liverpool carries a simple inscription chosen by his crew: "He was the best of us." Today, Walker's principles, coordinated sensor tracking, multi-level engagement, and multi-platform teamwork, remain the foundation of NATO anti-submarine warfare. His story serves as a timeless reminder that sometimes a single person with the courage to challenge the system can change the course of history and save thousands of lives, armed with nothing but a notebook and a refusal to accept failure. Frederick Walker never became an admiral and never received a knighthood during his lifetime. The system rarely forgives those who prove to be smarter than their superiors. However, the 15,000 sailors saved and the turning of the tide in the Battle of the Atlantic became his true monument. His creeping attack and vertical barrier tactics are still studied in naval academies worldwide as a prime example of how one man with a notebook and a strong will can change the course of world history. If you are fascinated by these stories of forgotten heroes and hidden innovations that change the fates of empires, subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button and ring the bell so you don't miss our new investigations. Your support helps us find and tell the truth about those who forged history against all odds. See you in the next episode.